Hello, everybody, and welcome to our coffee talk today. I'm Henrike von Platen, and I'm talking with
Margrét Bjarnadóttir.
With a beautiful green cup today.
So yeah, it's my DTU cup actually that they gave me. So yeah,
nice. Okay, let's see what people think when they watch this in 10 years' time. Our vintage coffee cups. I have some questions for you today, Margrét.
Sure.
Let's do it a bit different because on March 17th, that's not that long ago, there were these MEPs doing some voting and on EU level, and they actually backed the binding transparency measures that we are all looking forward so much on EU level concerning equal pay. So I would like to know from you, because I know which my favorites are, which are your favorite things in this directive that is going to come sooner or later, but it's going to come definitely.
Yeah, so this was the vote out of committee. So now it goes into this additional complex process that I don't even know how to explain properly. But there were definitely a couple of highlights and changes to the directive that is actually noteworthy. I think there are two numbers that are interesting, right? So first, they lowered the thresholds for organizations that have to conduct a pay equity study and fall under the legislation or the directive, and that threshold was lowered from 250 to 50. So they have kind of moved to smaller businesses, and then there is a notion or a language in the directive that states that if there are national regulations that are go even lower, so we know the Icelandic directive or the Icelandic legislation goes down to 25, so then that kind of supersedes the 50 from the European Union. So that was one of the interesting takeaways, that now this will apply more broadly. Another super interesting number that got updated was I call it the allowable size of the pay gap. So any pay gap within a group of workers in the first draft of the directive, it was actually set at 5%. And I always say 5% a pay gap over a lifetime. I mean, I don't even want to think about how many nice vacations that is, right? So that 5% has actually been lower to 2.5%. So now if you cannot explain differences between employees with objective, gender neutral is the language that they use in the directive. So if you cannot explain differences with objective gender neutral factors, you have to bring those differences down to 2.5%. And another interesting language, and I think this is all in Article 9, if I remember that correctly. I have it written down, so I hope I wrote down the right thing, is that within 8 years, you actually have to bring it down to 0. So to me, that's something to celebrate for sure.
Absolutely. And I remember, like you say, with the 5%, I'm similar. I always say I don't understand the 5. What should that be? But that seems like then that I remember talking about, if you do the universal fair pay check and you've done that, you don't have to be afraid of any legislation coming, which stays true because it's still with the 1% a lot harder. So everybody who's actually already sort of on our trip to Planet Fair is already complying to more than any legislation has, even the EU one when it's there. And still it's really stronger than many others out there. I like that. I also like what you said with the groups. You said something about inside groups. So that's not only like the whole gap of the company, it sort of takes the groups in a separate angle as well, which is good because some don't even look at that. Or thinking about UK, where you just go out with the mean and median, and that's like the overall, and now you have to, because they have to do analysis. They probably have something in there as well about the I remember the making an assessment, making a pay assessment. So the question is, as we never know exactly when this is going to happen, I remember some time ago when I was talking with Louisa from the Landspitali, she always said one thing which sort of stick to my mind, which I think everybody out there that is thinking about what am I going to do when this comes needs to know. She said that in Iceland, many companies started to do assessments and things started to move in the right direction when they knew this was happening, when they knew legislation was being done or whatever, but the Landspitali started when they had to. And that made them have only like exactly 1 year time to fulfill everything. And she always said it was possible, they did it, and I think they did it very well. But she said it would have been nicer to have had a bit more time and to have started a bit earlier and not sort of at the moment when you have to. And looking at what's going to be inside this legislation, probably the best advice to anybody out there, just get going now, as you already know what's going to come.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the best advice you can give anyone. And I think it's not just about running the numbers. So a part of the transparency directive is also the right of the workers to basic information of how their salaries are determined, right? So, you know, what is the typical salary? What are the salary ranges? So if you cannot answer those questions today, you have to start the process of being able to answer those questions. How do we determine pay? And I think then it's also just about having that conversation within the organization about, okay, what is our pay strategy and how are we going to communicate it to our workers? So it's not even just about equal pay and pay equity. It's about this good compensation processes, and looking at pay equity can help that as well. So I think that's, I think companies should at least start thinking about and being aware of that they will have to be able to explain how they arrive at the salary decision for their employees. Yeah. And for many organizations, that's going to be a huge change, because often it has been considered a black box, like here's your number, right? But yeah, with this, that's going to change.
Yeah, and it will make life so much easier for both sides, in this case, employer and employees. So I think it's just a matter of having the, like we say, the mood, the courage to just go this way and sort of think of transparency as something positive. Or like I had it to sort of get this transparent part. It's about, like you just said, you need to understand how you get to that wage. You don't need to know everybody's wage. You need to know the way that you get there. And that's a very important part on transparency. I think that some employers might still think it's not good for them, because they think it's like opening up all the wages, which is not the case. You can still do that if you want to, but that's not the main part of it. And focus on knowing why you are paying, what you are paying, and making sure everybody knows how that functions. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. So then maybe just one last thought, kind of on that note, when you're talking about kind of pay transparency and organizations, being afraid of it, is that at least some of the people I've talked to that have been living with pay transparency, they actually, as an employee, they actually find it motivating, right? Because through the transparency, they can also learn what they need to do in order to achieve higher salary, right? So you can use the transparency to actually motivate your employees to do better, to learn new skills, etc. So if you have an employee that wants to do well, wants to improve, this can be a good thing. So I don't think organizations have to be afraid of paid transparency. They just have to be, just do it right and start early, and don't think that they can go fully transparent overnight, but start building towards it.
No. Yeah, be courageous and just do it. But I like that one. Be courageous, do it, and actually use it as a motivator for the employees. And that might just turn the right switch in the head of those that are still not there yet. And of talking about still not being there yet, we are there now. We have finished our 8 minutes. We are sort of at the end of the coffee cup. And I look forward to carrying on this conversation with you very soon, Margrét.
Yep. See you in 2 weeks.
Yo, bye-bye.
Bye.